Greetings, everybody. I trust you're good. Let's quickly have a look at Ger40, and yeah, let's recap quite a bit. Remember, guys, sometime last year I spoke about how we have, just bear with me. I spoke about how we have this candlestick over here, and I said that it's carrying a lot of liquidity where it ends right at the bottom, and that liquidity represents money that needs to be triggered by the market. Another thing, oh, apologies for the dogs in the background, guys. Another thing that I had spoken about, guys, is the fact that we had this M structure over here, which had a neckline at that level, right? We saw price breaking to the bottom side of that neckline, and then heading back to the neckline to test it, and we looked for potential selling opportunities at that point, and we saw price pushing further down to around this level, and we saw the market pushing further again to the neckline of this M structure, which is over here, and we can see that price currently is retesting that neckline of that M structure. So what may possibly happen at this point is that we may possibly see price push further down. Why do I say so? That is because this level over here is a very strong level of resistance, and you guys know by now that whenever we have M structures, guys, we want to see price breaking to the bottom side of that neckline, going back to that neckline to test it, and at that neckline is where we normally look for potential selling opportunities, right? But just also bear in mind that in order for price to reach here, this level over here, it may take quite some years, even a decade, right, for the market to reach this point. So this level at this point in time is not so important, but yeah, in fact, let's continue. The thing that I'm going to do, guys, is to add, or rather to mark, this neckline over here of this M structure, right? Because it's now a very strong level of resistance, and as I've said, we might potentially see price reject that entire area. And just to emphasize, remember that support and resistance are not lines, they are areas, right? So we could say that this whole area over here is a very strong level of resistance, right? Anyway, let's proceed, guys. So from here, I'm just gonna head down to the weekly chart. Here we are on the weekly chart. Let me just fix my line over here. Right, there we go, more or less. So what do we see on the weekly chart? On the weekly chart, the first thing that I can see, which is very much important, is the fact that we have, let's see, just bear with me, guys. Let me just zoom out a bit. We have this candlestick over here. It is a bullish candlestick with a very tiny body and quite a long upper wick, and it tells us that where that wick ends at the top, we have a lot of liquidity sitting at that point. And you guys know by now that liquidity represents money that needs to be triggered by the market at one point or another. So we could say that, in other words, there's a lot of money sitting at this point at the 14905 level, more or less, right? So chances are we will see the market pushing up to that level to grab that liquidity before perhaps pushing further down, because as I've said, guys, this is a very strong level of resistance, as we've had multiple rejections in the past at that level, right, as you guys can see. And I said to you guys that it is the neckline of that huge M structure that I spoke about on the monthly chart, right? Anyway, let's proceed, guys. So what else do we see, guys, on this particular chart of Ger40? At this point, I don't see much. I'm just gonna head down to the daily chart. Let's see daily chart. Here we are on the daily chart. I'm just gonna zoom out a bit. In fact, before we proceed, I just want to add my daily channel as well. Just bear with me, guys. Let's see. I would have my channel more or less in this manner. That looks just about right. Just bear with me, guys. Right, there we go. So here we are on the daily chart, right? So what do we see, guys, on the daily chart? Let's see. On the daily chart, I can see that we had this candlestick over here. It was also a liquidity candlestick, which means that it too was carrying a lot of money where it ends at the top, and that probably explains why we had price coming back all the way to that level to grab that liquidity, right? Just also remember that on the weekly chart we spoke about, let me just find the area again. On the weekly chart we spoke about an area over here, more or less, which is also carrying a lot of liquidity, right? That's, I think, another reason why we saw price moving further up to grab those two liquidity points, because as I've said, guys, liquidity represents money that needs to be triggered by the market at one point or another, right? Let's see. So what else do we see, guys? Another thing that I can see that is also very much interesting is that we had a W structure over here, which has a neckline at that point, and you guys know that whenever we have W structures, we want to see price closing to the upside of that neckline, heading back to that neckline to test it, and at that neckline is where we would look for potential buying opportunities. However, we can see here that we never really got to see price push further down to just retest that neckline. In fact, it closed above that trend line. It broke above that trend line, which tells us that chances are that the market is not likely to push further down to test the neckline of that W structure, and that chances are it's gonna push further up to grab all of those liquidity points, test that big resistance area, which is over here, and possibly we might see a reversal of sorts. But for now, I'm just gonna mark the neckline of that W structure because it is a very strong level of support at this point, right? There we go, right? Another thing that is also very much interesting is that we had this M structure over here, right? And I told you guys in the past that another thing that's also important when it comes to M structures is that a lot of traders and investors sell on the second leg of that M structure, and they put their stop losses just above, right? So at this point in time, we have a lot of stop losses that are sitting just above that M structure, and that price or the market may push further up to grab all of those stop losses and then possibly push further down, right? So there is plenty of scope for pushing further up, right, and only to perhaps push further down later on, right? Let's see, what else do we see, guys? At this point I don't see much really. I'm just gonna head down to the H4 chart. Let's see, H4 chart. Just bear with me, guys. Just want to fix my channel. There we go. That should be fine, right? And just remember that this is the neckline of that W structure that I spoke about. There we go, 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 right? So what else do we see, guys, now that we are on the H4 chart? On the H4 chart I don't see much really. I'm just gonna actually start off by adding my H4 channel as well. Just bear with me, guys. Let's see, I would actually have it in this manner. There goes my H4 channel, and we can see, guys, that we are in an upward trajectory, right? We're in an upward trending market. But yeah, let's proceed. So what else do we see, guys? So I had spoken about how we have this W structure, but we can see that the W structure has also played itself out. It started at this point, right, and then it seems to have ended at that point, right? So we can just disregard this W structure, but just also bear in mind that this level over here is still very much important because it's a very strong level of support, as we've had multiple rejections at that level, more or less. And I've said to you guys that in the future we might see price push further down to come and test or retest this area over here, right? But I also said that because price or the market has closed above this trend line over here, which is the daily trend line, we're likely to see price pushing further up to test that big resistance area that I spoke about on the bigger time frames, right? But in as far as buying or selling opportunities at this point, I really don't see any. However, I just also want to point out that as much as we had this W structure over here, can you guys also see that we have another W structure over here, which also has a neckline at that point? Let me just actually add a neckline to this point as well. Just bear with me, guys. Right, there we go. Right, and the next thing that I'm going to do, guys, is to utilize the Fibonacci retracement tool. I just want to have a look in terms of whether that neckline aligns with any key numbers that we have on the tool, and I'll show you why in a second. Right, so we can see that the neckline aligns with, we could say, the 50% as well as the 61.8% Fibonacci retracement levels. Right, why is this important? That is because, guys, should price from where it is currently come back to this level, chances are that I would look for buying opportunities at this point. Right, if I do get a rejection at this point and a reversal candlestick. Why? That is because, number one, we have this W structure, right? Number two, we have the neckline being broken to the upside. Number three, we have the trend line at this level being broken to the upside. Number four, we would have price coming back to the neckline to test it. Number five, we have the neckline being in alignment with the, or rather with both the 50% as well as the 61.8% Fibonacci retracement levels, right? So chances are, should price come back to this level from where it is, I would look for potential buying opportunities, and my take profit would be, let me just actually go back to the daily chart. My take profit would be, just bear with me, guys. My take profit would be this level over here, right, around the 14,900 level, and that is because it's a very strong level of resistance, and we are likely to find a rejection at that point and a reversal of sorts, right? So that is it, guys, as far as my analysis goes. Right, at this point I don't see any buying or selling opportunities. However, should price from where it is currently push further down to this level, at this level is where I would look for potential buying opportunities, right? And I've given you the reasons why. So that is it, guys, as far as my analysis goes. I just hope it makes sense. Just remember to like the content if you do indeed like it, and if you have any further comments or questions, just make them in the relevant section. And yeah, remember to subscribe, and peace out, guys.